Hello, welcome to another day. I hope you're doing well. I hope this has been a good time for you to reflect. Once again, things that we're talking about and we're discussing, you probably already know, but the real benefit is you taking the time to coach yourself through exactly what your thought process is, exactly what's important to you. And that's the theme of our lesson, work, whatever you call this thing that we're doing for today. It's values. Now, when we talk about values, oftentimes we have a pretty clear-cut understanding of what's important to us. However, for most of us, there's a discrepancy in how we're spending our time. That what we feel and hear, if a stranger were to watch us all day long with the activities that we do, and he didn't know what was important to us, he might come up with a different answer. So we need to spend our time and energy on the most important things in our life, and we need to avoid urgent distractions. Now, the exercise today is one that's been around for a long time. I wish I could have made it up, but I didn't. But in order for us to know if those things line up, one, we need to know what our priorities are, but two, we need to evaluate if the way that we're spending our time is congruent with that or not. Now, this model evaluates activities in two different ways: how important it is and how urgent it is. Urgent is something that requires your immediate attention, and I imagine you knew that. Important is something that delivers you in line with your personal values and goals. It's something that takes us closer to maybe our dreams, our aspirations, enables us to look after people, relationships, even things that are really precious to us. These can be linked in an intricate way, and that's the part that's always necessary to evaluate for you. And I'll give you an example. When your phone rings, that's something that is urgent. It's happening right then. You either answer it or you don't. A fire alarm in your house is also urgent. Now, when we think about those two things, one is urgent and it's also important. And typically people would say that's a fire alarm. Now, I get it. There's phone calls that we have that are really important as well. But when you put those two next to each other and you evaluate, there's obviously some connection between not only how urgent the activity is, but the level of importance that it might have. And let's look towards importance. Maybe a goal or dream of yours is to learn a new language. And so we would say, time spent on learning that language is really important. Now, if your partner, loved one, someone in your family fell and busted their head open, we would say that taking them to the hospital is really important as well. And so in one sense, with the fire alarm and the telephone, really the lens with which we visually evaluate it is just its urgency. Whereas learning a new language and the example of stitches, well, it's really based on importance, but one obviously has an additional connotation of being urgent as well. Now, how those four work is what we're going to spend time on today. So we have urgent and important. We have urgent and not important. We have important and not urgent. But there's one more category, and this is the real stinker. It's where it's not urgent and it's also not important. And so for today, we're going to have this list where everything that you do needs to be evaluated if it was something that had to be done right then and there. Did you have to do it without a delay? If the answer is yes, write urgent next to it. If the answer is no, then write not urgent next to it. Question 2, for all the activities that you logged today, is this something that took you closer to fulfilling your personal values and mission in life? If the answer is yes, write important. If the answer is no, then write not important. So for example, if you spend most of the morning plowing through a backlog of emails that came through, there's probably like a sense of urgency around this. After all, like, it'd be rude to let those pile up forever, and at some point people expect a response. So the answer to question one may be yes, like, hey, that was urgent. On the other hand, how effectively will responding to these emails take you closer to your personal goals for your life, career, and relationships? The chances are that most of the time that we spend doing this doesn't deliver that aspect. So if that's the case, then the question the answer to would be no, and therefore not important. Now, what emails are to you may be different than they are to the next person, So that's just an example. I'm not saying that, spending time on emails is unimportant. Maybe it is important to you, but I think the point is that we need to be completely honest with these lists and the way that we place these activities in each of the quadrants. Now, last thing I'll say, the sheet that you can use is just a link. If it's easier for you just to make a list, that's fine. Make it as easy as possible. If you got an iPad, you could probably just take a picture of it and draw on there. Really, whatever works to just make sure you can track all this stuff. Do a little audit for yourself. Until tomorrow, I can't wait to see what you come up with.